What's going on, guys? This is Lior and welcome back to my channel. Now, what I thought I would do in this video is I've been renovating a lot of apartments the last couple of months, and I've done literally everything from got rehabs to kind of kitchen and bath jobs to very light stuff. So what I thought I would do is kind of talk about the different scopes of work involved in renovating apartments and talk about the differences in what you have to consider if you're gonna do something like a gut rehab versus something like a light touch-up, right? So if you're someone that's investing in multifamily, or you want to invest in multifamily, or you even think about investing passively and you want to try to figure out the right business strategy, right? Listen up to this video as I'm going to talk about the intricacies of what you need to consider when renovating, and then the intricacies of these different renovation strategies. So with that, let's get at it. What's going on, guys? My name is Lior and welcome back to my channel. Now, before I get into the meat and potatoes of the video, two super quick things, guys. Number one, if this is your first time on my channel, first of all, welcome. Second of all, make sure you smash that subscribe button for me. I'm putting out tons of videos all the time, talking all different facets of real estate and multifamily investing. And number two, guys, if you've been thinking about investing passively in real estate, right, you want to create additional income stream, cash flow, and you want to get exposure to different types of assets in your portfolio, this is what me and my team do. We buy a lot of real estate, and we've got people like you guys investing in our deals. So if you're looking for something like that, make sure to reach out to us and we will definitely help you out. So with that, as I said in the intro, this video is going to be all about apartment renovations, right? Because like I said in the intro, the last number of months, I spent a lot of time investing and renovating in a lot of different types of apartments, right? So we've done everything from gut rehabs to kitchen and bath guts to kind of lighter touch-ups, right? So really have done the whole breadth of things. So what I would do is give you some of the key principles that I kind of think about to make sure that I'm strategically using my money when renovating these apartments. And then we'll actually dive deep into the scope of work, how I think about where I get a return, what kind of scope of work I need to do, so you can really understand how we approach our renovations. So let's get right into it and start with a couple of key principles, right? And principle number one that I want to talk about that I think is true whether you're renovating apartments for rent, maybe you're considering doing a flip and then like renovate and then sell, but regardless, typically your money is made in the kitchens and baths. Like, this is a huge and really critical rule, right? Because look, at the end of the day, everything outside kitchens and baths people can live with, but if you're gonna present a new product, especially that's renovated, the first and really the main thing that's gonna stick out to tenants is always gonna be the kitchens and baths, right? So if you're gonna cheap out on things like finishes in there, if you're gonna skimp out on tile or type of stone, right? I mean, you're just setting yourself up for people to just not like your apartment, right? It's just one of those factors that people always, they just remember that, right? And I remember even when I was younger and when I first started on real estate, I even did some showings for potential renters just to learn the business. That was something they always talked about, and like, oh, I really loved that kitchen, I really loved that bathroom, it's so nice, right? Again, you can kind of you could potentially think about skimping out on other areas of the apartment, but kitchens and baths is where the money is made. Number two principle you want to understand, this is more specific for your market, is understand what are the key amenities that are huge in your market, right? So, if you guys don't know, most of my projects, or all of my projects really, are in the Boston area, right? And in Boston, there are a couple of key things that are really, really important. Number one, in-unit laundry is massive, right? And especially kind of if you're renovating and doing apartments in where you're gonna have a lot of working professionals or young professionals, having in-unit laundry is absolutely huge. They all ask about that. And if you ask the good rental agents, a lot of them will tell you that a lot of people filter out by, units that don't have in-unit laundry, right? So, and don't get me wrong, adding in-unit laundry if your apartment doesn't have it can be a massive pain. I mean, I do it a lot. There's a lot of coordination and mechanical work, but it is a key amenity. Another big thing in Boston, dishwashers and kitchen. I know, again, I've seen apartments where people skimp out on them. Huge to have dishwashers in apartments. And then the third thing, that's probably more of a premium feature than maybe in other parts of the country is central air conditioning, right? Here you can have a really, really nice apartment and get really pretty much top dollar rent without having AC, right? Whereas, obviously if you're in Florida or somewhere south, that's obviously gonna be a huge component, right? So, really make sure to understand what your area commands, what does your area need, what do renters in your specific areas look for, and then you can really hit on the key features and make sure your apartments feature them. Rule number 3 I would go by is understanding your general rule on thinking about what an upgrade would cost versus the recapture period, right? And here's what I mean by that, right? Like, let's say you're considering doing some sort of upgrade to the unit, right? Usually the way we like to think about it is, all right, if I'm gonna spend X amount of dollars, right? How much does that increase my monthly income and yearly income on the rent side in order for me to recapture that upgrade, right? So, for example, if I can do an upgrade and let's say it's gonna cost me, $6,000 or $7,000, right? And let's say I know that by doing it, I can increase my rent by up to about $200 per month, right? That would be $2,400 a year, $4,800 over the course of 2 years, right? And that means I can pretty much recapture that cost within 2 years from the bump of rental increase, right? So that's how I like to think about it is, okay, what's my recapture period? If I'm within about 2-ish, maybe pushing 3 years, usually I think that's a pretty solid return. Sometimes you might consider doing, over longer recapture periods, just depends on your philosophy, the kind of product you have, the kind of tenant base you have as well, right? But really figuring out what is your recapture period on upgrades is gonna be a great way for you to filter and really make strategic decisions about what upgrades to put in your unit. And number 4 key rule I think about is the upgrades or features you can include in your apartments that you won't necessarily get a direct, rental increase on, but might help you move the unit faster and then AKA lower vacancy, or you make your apartment stand out more, maybe if it's like a slower rental market, right? So, some of these things that you might think about is having nicer hardware, right? Like having the hardware. I've upgraded my hardware to have nice black matte hardware. It pops more than like the typical chrome knobs. It stands out a lot more in pictures too, right? Things like black faucets, right? Again, think about that. In pictures, they look sexy, they pop. It gives the unit a little bit of a different feel. Black door hardware, right? So like black doorknobs, black door hinges, right? I'll spend a little bit more money because again, it's not like I'm getting a direct return on that extra dollar it's gonna cost me, but I know it's gonna move faster. I know people are gonna get more excited about it, and it'll help my units overall stand out. So now that we kind of talked about some of the key principles, right, that I used to think about my renovations, let's actually go through the different types of projects that you can have, and see how we think about what do we do in each type of project, right? So we'll talk about gut rehabs, kitchen and bath guts, and then maybe some kind of very light touch-ups, right? So let's start with gut rehabs, which are the most intense, right? Because you're basically doing everything from scratch, or most of it. And let's talk right through what we want to think about when doing like that, right? So on gut rehabs, obviously we're going to have new kitchens, new baths, because we're going to demo, demo a good chunk of the unit, and we're going to try to start fresh. Now, here's some other things that we want to think about when doing gut rehabs, right? First of all, what are we doing for mechanical upgrades, right? Now, a lot of this has to do with your strategy on, are you gonna hold the asset long term? Is this something that you might consider selling in a couple of years? And that's gonna dictate what kind of mechanical upgrades you do, right? Like, are you putting in all new plumbing, all new electrical? Are you gonna replace existing plumbing stacks, right? Those are the decisions you need to consider really carefully, right? Because if I'm gonna flip a building maybe in 2 or 3 years, sit on it and then sell it a couple of years later, I'm gonna try to kind of, weasel my way around a little bit and not spend absolute top dollar mechanical upgrades. But if my strategy is, hey, I really love this building, I'm gonna sit on this for 10, 15 years, this is gonna be like my retirement, then that's something I would consider, right? Is maybe replacing plumbing stacks, right? Getting rid of old cast iron like we have in Boston, and I'm sure in other areas of the country too. Consider doing new plumbing in most of the units, right? New electrical. And really just upgrading it so that you don't have maintenance issues 5, 10, 15 years down the line. We can think about adding bigger amenities, right? Like, if we can add in-unit laundry, right? I mean, if you're gonna be gutting it, you can certainly add new drainage, water lines, plumbing stacks that you need for stuff like in-unit laundry, If your kitchen didn't have dishwashers, that's pretty easy. I mean, you just add plumbing for that. Depending on the heating type and heating systems, are you gonna put in all new HVAC and all of a sudden add central air in here, right? So these, again, are the questions that are gonna be determined by your exit strategy, the time that you're gonna hold onto the asset, and honestly, the amount of money that you have to play with. And finally, the other factor that we kind of throw around with gut rehabs is walls, doors, and trim, right? So with walls, if we're not reframing and kind of keeping the same layouts, you can keep some of the walls that are maybe in pretty good condition, so you don't have to throw up new sheets, new board and plaster, right? If they're in really, really bad condition, then a lot of times we just take them down and go up with new board and plaster. Doors and trim, a lot of times if we're gutting them, we have this old trim in Boston that honestly kind of just looks like crap. We're gonna take that out, put new trim, put new doors, and really make the unit look brand new, right? Because at this point, if we're gutting it and we're running new mechanicals everywhere and there's wiring and plumbing going all over the place, we might as well take the old trim down and just really create a nice brand new product. Now, the second type of renovation you might be doing, if you're not gonna do a full gut rehab, is maybe you're gonna do a kitchen and bath job, right? Where you're gonna do all new kitchens and all new baths in your unit. Now, pretty similar to gut rehab, except of course we're not going as crazy with taking down walls. We're probably not doing all new plumbing and new electrical, right? We're probably just upgrading whatever we need in the kitchen and in the baths, right? So we're gonna be a little bit more strategic about how we spend our money. Typically, the apartment's in better condition for these kinds of renovations, so we don't need to do all new doors, we don't need to do all new trim. Typically our window's pretty solid. Typically mechanically the building's pretty solid as well, right? We're really just taking down the existing kitchens, going up, doing whatever mechanical upgrades are needed in those areas, and then going up with new kitchens and baths. Now, in these kinds of renovations, again, you want to be really strategic with the kind of finishes you're putting out, right? I mean, we figured out ways to make a really, really nice product at a pretty reasonable cost, right? I mean, typically we go things like white shaker cabinets that stand out with nice black hardware that pops. We love, I love doing white quartz countertops. I think it's a little bit more expensive than granite countertops, but it's way more durable. It looks a million times nicer, stands out way more in pictures, right? So that's another thing we'll do. Sometimes we'll do backsplashes depending on the, depending on the apartment and the area. In the bath, same thing, right? We're typically, we might try to save the bathtub depending on the condition, but if it's like a tub enclosure or really old, we'll take that down, go up with new tile, do new tile on the floors, new vanity, new toilet, right? And really just make those stand out. Because remember our first rule of thumb, your money's made in the kitchens and baths, so you don't want to skimp out on the finishes, right? Because those are going to be really, really critical for you to achieve the top dollars. And finally, the last type of kind of variation of jobs that you might be taking on as an investor is something like a light touch-up job, right? So in a light touch-up job, you're typically doing, pretty light stuff, right? Maybe you're only doing paint, maybe some appliance swaps, maybe replacing countertops or some hardware here and there. But again, nothing crazy. Maybe some light fixtures or something. Nothing crazy. You're just kind of swapping it in and out to try and make the unit stand out, give it a little bit of pop, give it a little bit of a refresh so that it's ready to roll on, and try to attract the best tenant on the back end. So hopefully that makes sense. I know we kind of ran through it pretty quick in terms of the different types of renovations you might be doing as an investor yourself, or that you might be investing in projects, right? But the point is you want to figure out what kind of project you want to do, right? What kind of scope. And then remember our rules of thumb, right? About the kitchens, the money's made in the kitchens and baths, about how to strategically spend your money so that you're getting a return. Are there gonna be some miscellaneous things you do to kind of make your unit pop? And obviously considering the amenities that are critical for your specific market. So hopefully that's helpful, guys. Hopefully this gives you some guidance if, as you tackle your own projects. Of course, if you have any questions, make sure you put them in the comments below and I will definitely help you out.